Hey everyone, it's Lana from 3E Energy Healing. Thank you for joining me today. We are going to have an interesting conversation today. I have been so curious about what these drones are in New Jersey and actually all around the country that I wanted to check in with my guides and channel a message about what these could possibly be. Now, before I did my channeling session, I was convinced that these are government, no UFO involvement, and that it's a black ops operation. And the information that I got actually really surprised me. There is an element of that to it, but we are going to be today exploring the role of drones in the military / extraterrestrial operation that they're collaborating on this. And what they're doing is they are scanning humanity's frequencies. They're frequency scanning. So let's get into this. My biggest question was, are these operations aligned with humanity's growth, or do they just serve a hidden agenda? So let's get into this, and do me a favor, like this video, share, and subscribe if you find the content meaningful to you. Okay, I did write a lot of notes, so you'll see me looking down and sometimes reading directly from the notes. So I channeled this message yesterday, which was December 18th, and want to get this out to you as soon as possible. All right, so what are the purpose of the drones? And the format that I'm going to be using in this video is I did transcribe the channeled message, but I'm going to only be reading portions of that directly. I'm going to actually work through this in a kind of logical categorization way. So this first category was, what are the purpose of the drones? And it said that they were to scan vibrational and energetic signatures of humans and identify individuals with specific resonance frequencies. Now, the imagery that I saw when I was channeling was that when the drones hover, this is why they hover. They're kind of staying stationary in one spot, and they're sending this scout down energetically, and they're looking for, now a lot of people in the media, I've heard a lot of theories that they're looking for radioactive material. That could still be it, but one of the things that I learned in this channel is that there's not just one agenda. There's 3 competing agendas from 3 different groups that are happening here. It was really fascinating, so I know you're going to enjoy this. But let's just talk about the purpose of the drones. So what's happening is they're frequency scanning, and they're doing that at all levels. And so I saw something coming and scanning my third eye, my throat chakra, and they're looking for specific energy signatures and patterns within human beings. And they didn't focus to me on the nuclear scanning or the radioactivity scanning. They focused mainly on the human impact of what's happening with these drones. So they said this is a partnership between off-planet intelligence and our military, and what they're doing is scanning humanity for frequency ranges. That's why they hover. They're doing a deep dive on humanity, and they're scanning people's chakras and vibrational resonance signature or energetic signatures. They're looking for specific energy signatures that they can remotely activate that resonates with their agenda. And make no mistake about it, there are actual multiple agendas involved. So on our military side, this is part of a highly compartmentalized black budget project, but they're using alien technology to scan and buffer information. Now, there's multiple avenues that we can get alien technology. There have been crashes, and there is interaction. If we're to believe the whistleblowers that have come forward, not necessarily the ones that spoke to Congress, but other whistleblowers that have spoken at conferences and on television programs, if we're to believe that, then we've had a long-standing agreement dating back to Eisenhower with extraterrestrials for technology trade. And the deal supposedly was that Eisenhower signed a contract with an alien group, which we believe is probably the Greys, that allows them to abduct people in exchange for technology. And I'm not going to go all into that, but that is something out there in the common UFO vernacular and in the experiencer realm. So with that, we do have access to reverse engineered actually technology given to us directly by extraterrestrial races, but we've also had crash recovery retrieval, which we know to be true based on the testimony to Congress in the past 2 years. We do have crash retrieval that we've reverse engineered now. We have a very primitive handle on this technology, but we have been able to utilize it to create our own set of technology using black budget operations. And so the military, there's two factions of our military. Now, the overarching answer and response I got to basically who's responsible is that this is a three-way collaboration between extraterrestrials who have been working with a group called the White Hats. And I'll go into that a little bit further in a minute. The White Hats are working with plants in our military and our government, high-ranking officials that have access to budget and budget allocation. So these high-ranking officials in our government are working, and this is all alleged, by the way, right? This is a channeled information that I got from off-planet intelligence, okay? I'm not spouting facts. I don't have insider information or knowledge. This is my, I guess, not quite my opinion, but I'm recanting an opinion or recanting information. So just keep that in mind. But basically they said that the government plants that are working with the White Hats, they are the ones that can allocate budget to these black ops projects and are in charge of them. Now, the government and military is very compartmentalized, so not everybody in the military is going to know what's happening in a black ops operation. And they've utilized this to their advantage. So these people who are working with the White Hats, which I believe are humans, they are the White Hat group are humans that have connection with extraterrestrial races, and they are working on an agenda. Now, we don't really know what that agenda is, and I'll get into that a little bit further, but these people who are allocating funds and saying, yes, let's do these ops, they've diverted billions of dollars to these black projects to utilize this, what the military, the standard military that has not been read into these black ops, what they think have been reverse engineered technology or technology that has just naturally been developed by humans at this point. They believe that these drones carry that technology, and they believe that this is an operation to utilize that technology that we know of in our government. The people in charge in the military have a different agenda, which is to allow the extraterrestrials to co-op these drones to use the extraterrestrial technology for the extraterrestrial purposes and the White Hat purposes. So I was like, oh my God, I didn't know. I didn't quite think that this was ET. I thought that this was military. So hearing that was really interesting to me. Okay, so we've covered that. The government thinks that this project is to do one thing, but the powers that be within the military have created an alliance with the extraterrestrials such that these drones are being deployed for a completely different purpose than what they think. And it's alien technology being used to scan and buffer information streaming to humanity. Now, this is really important. We're going to go deep into this scanning and buffering of information to humanity. But the military's reasoning for putting the drones up there is to promote a conflict, fear, and war agenda. So this is a triple operation, basically. And this is the test of this from both sides. What is becoming clear to the military is they're like, oh shit, there's something else happening here that wasn't part of our operation, but we are becoming aware of something else that's happening, and things are not going to the plan that they had. They had like this limited scope of things that they were going to do with these drones, and it's kind of gotten out of their control. And the people who set this plan into motion, the White Hat group, they're still high ranking in the military and the government, and they're like, oh, the aliens must have co-opted this out of our control. But they actually knew that that was going to happen, and they actually planned for that. So there's a lot of backhandedness that's happening. Okay, let's talk about the White Hats. They're collaborating with the Extra-Terrestrials, and When I view this information, I'm viewing it not from my own human perspective. I'm going up to a plane of awareness and existence that is more neutral. So when we are immersed in the unity consciousness, there really is no such thing as good or bad. We have our own human agenda, our own personal agenda even. And what we might think is bad might be good for someone else. There's a relativity to what is good and bad, right? And in the planes that I go to connect with the parts of myself that have access to this type of information, it's more of a neutral perspective. And so while my own personal discernment remains at the forefront in everything that I do when I'm doing spiritual work, what the information that I'm being told is not always necessarily like, that's bad, this is good. Okay, so I want you to keep it in mind that you need to use your own discernment, your own intuition to decipher the world, especially in this world of AI where we can't bank on a photograph or a video. Like, that might be fake. We are now having to bring our extrasensory perceptions online now. We are having to bring our intuition into it. You have to feel right about what you're saying. Okay, yes, this is fact and this is not fact, because facts are very fluid at this point in time. So I just wanted to, call your attention to that, because it really has a lot to do with your own free will. We'll get into that a little bit more as well. So the white hats, I don't know if they're good or bad. I don't know what their agenda is. I do know that they did tell me that it's a disclosure agenda. They want disclosure because it's tied to Earth's integration with a galactic federation, with the Galactic Federation. So if you don't know what that is, go look it up. You can Google it, and there's plenty of information about what the Galactic Federation is. But there is also a possible agenda to destabilize America and the existing power structures in America. That's something that did come through about the White Hats agenda. They want to take down the apparently maybe deep state. I don't know what it's called, but they want to destabilize the power and control forces that are currently, have been ruling our civilization. And actually, when you factor religion into it, and not just America, it's for thousands of years. Okay, the next part is the dark forces response to this. Okay, so if we assume that the Galactic Federation and the White Hats are a quote-unquote good agenda, which I already gave my piece on that, we don't know. But we do know that there are dark forces, and those people are also in control in the military. Now, what's happening is that as this is playing out, they thought, oh, we're putting these drones up in the sky, it's going to cause fear, confusion, we're going to test out to see what a potential disclosure event might do. I mean, they've been already doing the disclosure events in Congress, with calling in whistleblowers and confirming that there's alien life that they have in possession, and alien technology and UFOs, etc. But now they're like, oh, let's take it a step further. Let's stage a soft launch of a UFO invasion to see what the public does. What are people going to do when UFOs show up over New York? Well, what they didn't account for somehow, which doesn't seem right, because military people are very, very cunning and very intelligent, but they didn't really bank on the orbs showing up. And so they put the drones out, and you could totally make an argument that that's human technology. They have FAA lights on them, for God's sake, right? So that is man-made, obviously. But what they didn't account for is that the actual UFOs are showing up as well. So there's orbs in the sky that are plasma. These are on the local news now. We live in a world right now where UFOs are showing up daily in mainstream news, okay? But they didn't really plan on how to address this, because the things that those drones are being utilized for aren't what they planned them to be used for. They've been co-opted. So they didn't really know the extent of what their experiment was going to do. And they're like, crap, we better get a handle on this. So they're trying to capitalize on this. They didn't fully plan for this. They didn't know this whole thing was going to happen, and it wasn't something that they chose, but they're trying to flip it so that they can capitalize on this and create a sense of fear and destabilization in the society. Because now people are saying, oh, well, they made a statement, right? They made a statement. They said, we don't know what these are, but we know they're not harmful. Now, before I did this channeled message, I was like, that's bullshit. Like, how can it not be harmful, but you not know what it is? Well, I was shocked in this, that the way they explained it to me was they're telling the truth. Like, they launched the drones, but then other shit started happening. And they're like, oh my God, we have no idea what is happening. But they have been communicated with. They have been told they're not here to harm. And they know they're not here to harm because they're regulating on their asses. The UFOs are regulating on the agenda of why these drones were initially launched, of what the government thought that they were going to do with these things. So they're like, oh crap, we're the ones trying to harm humanity, and these guys are showing up and they're thwarting our efforts and they're co-opting our technology. And so we know for a fact that it's not going to harm us because we were the bad guys in the first place. That's what basically is happening. So they're becoming aware of a mothership that we haven't seen. We can't see it. And I don't know why. Maybe it's phased out of our reality by cloaking, or they're in a different dimension. But they're becoming aware that there's a spaceship, a mothership, hanging over where the drones and the orbs are coming from. And they are not read into these secret black ops. They are not read into the extraterrestrial involvement stuff. They just had a military operation that they were trying to complete. So what they're doing, they told the truth. They're like, we don't know what it is, but we know it's not harmful. And that's how I just never would even put that together. That they were telling the truth. I thought they were lying. So that was hilarious to me. All right, so there's 3 competing agendas. The White Hats want to destabilize America power structures and create disclosure of extraterrestrials. The military is focused on conflict and fear and using this thing that's happening to line their pockets and declare a state of emergency and, you know, make war okay, etc. But the extraterrestrials are here to do so they're here to elevate human consciousness by activating dormant abilities. So now let's get into this part. This was very interesting to me. They're going to be activating our dormant abilities as humans, awakening innate telepathic abilities through frequency activation, encouraging humans to recognize and align with higher frequencies. So they're going to be doing that through turning people on remotely by tapping into people who resonate with a certain frequency. Now, if you're familiar with like tuning forks, if you tap a tuning fork that is the same resonance as another tuning fork, when you tap this tuning fork, the other one actually starts vibrating. And that's basically what they're doing. They're tuning humanity. And they're finding the people that have this resonance with their frequency, the people who have begun to awaken, or people who can be easily awakened based on their natural frequency. And they're tapping into people who resonate with certain frequencies and utilizing that resonance to transmit frequencies that will activate people in some way. When I'm seeing the drones hover, actual alien technology has been doing this for centuries now and capitalizing the UFOs and extraterrestrials. They've known this technology for trillions of years about resonance and energetic frequency and vibration. And they've been using it on us in many different ways over the centuries. And they've been using it on us knowing that we have not been advanced enough or aware enough by design to understand resonance and frequency. And this is partially because of religion. So they did bring the religion into this, which we'll cover in a minute. But they know that we're not advanced to recognize what's happening. But some people who have had previous incarnations using this technology are able to recognize this. And there's so many star seeds on Earth right now that they're finding them. They're basically trying to find the star seeds that can resonate with the extraterrestrial vibrations and bringing us online. Okay, so just imagine how this can even work from a logical perspective. I'm pretending I'm a person who doesn't believe in aliens. Okay, I live in New Jersey, and I look up in the sky and I see a whole bunch of shit I cannot explain. I see plasma balls, I see drones, and even throughout the doubt of the drones being a military operation, I'm seeing shit I literally cannot explain. And now I'm curious. Now I'm open, and I'm going to go down a rabbit hole, and I'm going to look at, what do we know? I'm going to look at the fact that the government is telling us that these things exist in the past 2 years. I'm going to look at YouTube videos, people like me talking all nonsense crazy, according to people who are relying on their five senses about the world around them, you know, and I'm going to connect my own internal experience and how I feel when I'm looking up at the sky and I'm seeing drones, which of course, if they're man-made drones with FAA lights and they're swarming over my town, I'm going to be afraid. And that's exactly what the government wants. But when that's happening, you're also seeing plasma balls and orbs, and you're like, what the shit is that? You know, everything's all crazy. What is happening? Potentially, could it be alien technology, right? Now we're opening the door of people who are completely, perfectly rational and quote unquote sane to open the door to this possibility. And that's not only happening cognitively, and that's what needs to happen with people who use their brain primarily, their left side of their brain. It needs to happen cognitively to even open up that possibility. And this is providing them with that option, you know, to walk through that door. But people who are also aware and psychic and, you know, aware of energetics like me or like other star seeds and other people who are tuned in, this is actually an energetic resonance frequency adjustment that's happening as well, like a physical resonance adjustment that's happening in that area for the people who are witnessing this or even in proximity to it. Okay, so I know that free will is a major, that is a law that cannot be broken. It's a universal law. We have free will. And whether that exists only in this universe or this experience or not, I don't know. All I know is that our souls have been given free will. And so I'm like, in the background, as I'm receiving this information, I'm like, well, what about free will? They can't just beam stuff down and turn us on and activate us like mind control, MK Ultra. But they gave me the answer because I said, first of all, they said, extraterrestrials have telepathic abilities. And they're like, yeah, but humans don't recognize that humans have it also. So I'm like, why can't they just connect telepathically? You have to be open to that. With telepathy, there is an element of free will. You have to consent to receiving and broadcasting that information to a directed source, another person telepathically. You have to consent to that using your free will. And you have the ability and right to cloak yourself. And that's a topic that I'm going to ask my guides a little bit more about because they brought it up here and I've never learned about cloaking. So I'm very curious about that. Maybe I'll do my next video on cloaking. But so I said, if these things are telepathic, why can't they just connect to us naturally? And they said the reason for that is because they're using technology to do this instead of their own innate telepathic nature. And that's because humans don't have our own telepathic abilities developed enough. So they're artificially using technology to connect to us telepathically and forcing a connection on a vibrational level without us being aware that we can be telepathic or that we can receive information. And so I said, so there's a level of technology that's being utilized. Isn't this a breach of free will? Are these beings that are doing this nefarious? Are they forcing a connection? And the answer was more like, they're turning the radio broadcast on. It was off, and now they're turning it on. They're broadcasting this information to humanity, and not enough people were waking up soon enough in time to hear it. And they're trying to help us get to the point where it can benefit humanity if we can tune into this broadcast on an energetic level. That's the whole mass awakening. That's what it's about. It's about turning people's innate ability to perceive and receive information telepathically on, and passively broadcasting the information that they want people to hear on the channel that they're tuning in on the frequencies that they're utilizing. So basically, it's like turning a radio on and then prompting us to turn our radio receiver on. So they're kind of sidestepping the free will component. Sneaky. Because as humans experiencing this, it's not as if they're shoving information into our brain. We have to consent to that receiving the broadcast. But it's a gentle nudge in that direction. All of a sudden, now you're more aware, you're more receptive. Now you see something in the sky and you're curious and you're like, I wonder what that is. And you tune in, right? So now your free will tuning in and saying, what are you? Asking yourself, hypothetically asking to connect. In your mind, it's hypothetically asking to connect, but really it's actually you consenting using your free will. So free will can be very sneaky. They know how to get around it. But suddenly you'll notice that your thoughts are changing a little bit. You're more open to certain concepts and ideas. And that's because your energetics are more permeated from the streams of information. So I do want to talk about that. And I know that I have this permeation concept a little bit lower in my notes. Let's see, I can't find it. Let me go back. All right, so about the permeation. So they kind of explained how that works. Okay, here it is. So when you notice that your thoughts are changing a bit and you're becoming a little bit more open to thought streams that you wouldn't naturally have had because now you're being prompted to think about this, there's moments where you're like, okay, now this phenomena is now part of my reality. I co-create with you now. I share this reality with these drones and these UFOs that I'm seeing in the sky. And that becomes a way to create unity consciousness with that phenomenon. Okay? So if we had absolute proof that extraterrestrials existed, we would all have to accept that that's part of our shared reality, right? So when you start veering into the sense of unity consciousness, you begin to recognize that there is actually no boundary between you, the air around you, the next person, place, or thing that you surround yourself with in your environment. There is no boundary energetically. We're all just energy. And even though we have a physical body with boundaries, our skin and our hair and whatever, we have an aura that is, there's no boundary. And we, without realizing it, unless you cloak yourself, they said, unless you take specific steps to cloak your energy, you broadcast your signal energetically for all to tune into. And that's how, we are broadcasting our vibration out. That's how you know that someone is looking at you from behind you, when someone's staring at you and you're like, I feel somebody staring at me. We're all connected, right? And so you're broadcasting that signal, you're receiving energetic signals from other people, whether you're aware of it or not. You know when you feel like, oh, I don't like this place, it doesn't have good energy. You know when you feel uncomfortable. This is not all driven from your brain. This is your extrasensory perceptions. And the extraterrestrials are, the experts at this, on how to use energetics and frequencies to communicate and telepathically, energetically, etc. So they're looking for specific frequencies because a lot of people in our current stage of development can access, and this is why religion comes up next. A lot of people in our current stage of development can access Christ consciousness through their religion. But for the most part, they said, religion is a colluded and corrupt connection to go through. The ideological concepts that you were taught and fed are not as clean a connection to Christ consciousness as opposed to the ones that arise within you when you have the practice of meditation or going inward and intentionally connecting with unity and Christ consciousness and oneness. Nonetheless, any connection to Christ consciousness can serve as an open door to the bounty of the Christ within. And I have done other videos on Christ consciousness, so I'm not going to go all into that now. But basically what they mean by that is Christ consciousness is unity consciousness, right? So when we are able to tune into unity consciousness, you begin to recognize that there's no boundary, that your energetics are permeable, and that's how they're scanning us, because our energetics are permeable, and that technology has the ability to scan the frequency that we are broadcasting. And let's talk a little bit about timing too, because this is happening at a time where the Earth's alignment with solar cycles and galactic fields, including solar flares, plasma streams, this all contributes to our frequency activation. So we're not just getting it from the extraterrestrials and from this technology that they're using, we're actually getting it from the solar flares and plasma streams that are happening right now. They've been planning this for decades, and they've been utilizing Earth's natural rhythms and then rhythms of the galaxy to figure out when we're ready for this type of activation. So it's having to do with the plasma streams from the sun. It says this energy has been streaming in from all the solar activity, but it's also been streaming in over decades now, like from 2012, the harmonic convergence, the solar cycles in between 2012 and now. And it's also having to do with the placement of our solar system, which is going through a field in the galaxy that contains these activation codes. So the extraterrestrials have been doing this in sync with Earth's natural biorhythms and astrology. They've been doing this for decades, preparing us for the moment where we will begin to turn on our telepathic intuitive abilities into reality. And what I saw was it's like a wave going from the coasts inward into the middle of America. So these drone technologies are being seen a lot on the coast. They're being seen a little bit inland from the coast as well, the neighboring states from the coastal states. And it's almost like it says this is going to be like a wave of consciousness working its way from the coast, and we're all going to wake up in this new different reality, because the information that we're going to be receiving from these transmissions, we're going to be tuning in to these transmissions, will be such a different vibration than what we've been being fed. It's almost like they're cutting the signal of the fear programming of the government, and they're introducing us to a different higher frequency for us to tune into. And it still takes our own free will to tune into that frequency, but it's available for us now. We can do it. Okay. And then I said that they brought in religion, right? So I wanted to touch on that for a minute. 1 second. Okay. Okay, here it is. So then I asked, is there anything else we need to know about the drones? And they started saying the word acolyte, 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 acolyte. I'm like, what is an acolyte? I don't know what an acolyte is. What does that word mean? They said the acolytes will have a profound significance on the outcome of this drill. And they called it a drill, the drones. And so I looked up, what does the word acolyte mean? Because I didn't know what it meant. And it says a person assisting the celebrant. And a celebrant is a person who performs a ritual, okay? A person assisting the celebrant in a religious service or procession. So I don't know who the acolytes are, whether they're the white hats, whether they're the extraterrestrials, but there are acolytes, meaning people who are assisting whoever's performing this ritual or procession. To me, that might be the white hats, because I think the white hats are the ones that are really responsible for creating this whole project within the government. They disguised it as a nefarious agenda to fit within the fear agenda-based programs of the military. But they're really helping this procession, this religious procession that's happening in our skies right now. And they said this will bring war to a halt. this is the frequency that humanity will outgrow war through. This is the frequency, so the frequency that they're turning on. They're scanning humans, looking for people that they can broadcast this frequency to. This frequency will begin a wave of consciousness shift throughout the world in America that will start to wake people up. And this is the frequency that we move forward in our ascension, because it is the lowest level of vibration that's needed to shift us forward. So it's like there's like a band of frequency, and we're in the lower frequency band now, but we're getting to the point where like they're broadcasting this new higher frequency, and that higher frequency is like a springboard that will bring us into the next level. And it says it will start to inform us subconsciously. It will start to inform people in a different way or manner of thinking, so that we lose the willingness to participate in the fear-based program that we have been broadcasted. So we have been broadcasted a fear-based program, and now they're bringing in the church. Okay, so it says churches historically have broadcasted fear-based frequencies, and this effort is to transition away from control through religious institutions. They said, as we know, the Catholic Church conquered native people in many lands, stole their sacred land, and built churches upon it with steeples that are very tall on top of the land, and used repeated ritual, mass, which if that's not a ritual, I don't know what it is, right? Mass is a complete ritual with hundreds of people in a room chanting, drinking blood, right? And I'm sorry, like I was raised Catholic and my Nana is still really Catholic, but you know, I just never got into that personally, and I'm really sorry if you know, you're taking offense to this, but I am just energetically telling you what I'm seeing about mass and about the intent of why churches have a steeple on it. It's to broadcast a signal that blankets the earth. They have conquered every land in the world, built steeples with, you know, to broadcast this drone message. Not drone, I shouldn't have used that word. Well, it's probably not a coincidence that I used that word, but they're broadcasting a frequency. You know, mass happens at exactly the same times, 24 hours a day. Multiple, you know, churches are having mass at the exact same time. And it's not just Catholics, it's also the other religions as well. Like, this is a programming frequency that occurs, and it's fear-based. They wouldn't teach you that you can go to hell if they didn't want you to be afraid. So what they're saying is, so the action of religion being the central broadcaster is phasing out. Very interesting. Okay, so now we're going to talk about personal sovereignty and free will. So they wanted to make sure that we understand our human empowerment, that we understand the importance of our free will in accepting or rejecting vibrational resonance. We have the ability to choose higher frequencies like joy, wonder, and open-mindedness. And we have to recognize that we have control over our emotional and energetic states and avoid victim mentality. So in this section, they basically had said, it is with this that I would like to warn people not to worship false idols. So now we don't know if the White Hat Group and the Extra-Terrestrials or even the Galactic Federation, we don't know what their agenda is, and we don't know if their agenda aligns with humanity's best interests or for their own best interests. Basically, why would they have an agenda for humanity that overrides what's best for themselves? They won't. So we just have to be very aware of where this this new programming is leading us to as a humanity, because we gave all of our power to a religious programming that says that we are not in control of our destiny, that God judges us and will decide whether or not we go to hell or not. And if we eat meat on a Friday one time back in 1943, we might go to hell, right? So we just have to be very aware that this is new programming. What they're broadcasting is new programming, and just be very aware of that and cognizant of that. Like, just because I channel doesn't mean that. So I keep my energetic boundaries very clear, all right? And I do not allow negative entities anywhere near me, or to attach or to communicate with me. But what if that means that I'm only getting the good news? I'm only getting the happy stuff because I'm like, nope, not going to have negative energy. But negative energy and negative vibrations are part of the all, right? So we have both. It's not just all good. It's good and bad. It's, positive and negative. That's what is characteristic of our reality. And so you just always have to be aware of like what you're choosing with your free will to vibrate with. They say you have the free will to say no, thank you, I don't consent. And whether you consent or not is fully your choice. You may want to consent to this scanning technology. You may not want to. You may feel a good feeling when you look at these images of the UFOs. You may think, oh my God, how cool. You may resonate with that, or you may not. But whatever you're feeling, whatever you're tuning into, it's entirely your choice, and the law of free will cannot be broken. You have to consent to fear. You have to consent to panic. On a high level, we do choose our vibration, and it is within our control whether we have given that control away to the idea that we are a victim to it or not. Has a very high coincidence pattern with whether or not we feel anxiety or fear. Like there's a correlation between victim mentality and the feelings of fear and anxiety, right? Because having anxiety means you're in a very disempowered state. You're feeling subject to external forces and you're worrying about things that you cannot control. But what we do know is that we have free will and that we can control our vibration. And so whenever you do move into those types of feelings of fear or anxiety, it's good just to remind yourself that you have the power and control over whether or not you feel those emotions and whether you sink further into that vibration or not. You can choose to say no, and I do not consent to that. You can choose to consent to joy. You can choose, I have something in my eye. You can choose to consent to wonder and being open-minded. You can choose, on the same token, on the opposite side of the coin, to consent to being absolutely closed-minded and, poo-poo every open-minded idea that's out there. People like me talking about nonsense and extraterrestrials and energy frequency scanning, whether you want to believe that or not, that's entirely up to you. And I do not take offense because, believe me, I never would have believed this in certain permutations of my identity in the past either. But I want to close this video out with their message to humanity. They say, we encourage humans to spend more time being divorced of the chatter of the mind, detached from the attachments of the body, including identity of self, of their own person, of their life path, and any illness. Detach and quiet the mind. And it is with all of God's goodness and love that we depart you, our dear, dear friend. That was their message. So to recap, I just want to call to our awareness to acknowledge the complexity of this drone operation. It is not just black and white. And the download that I got around that was that we're moving into a multidimensional reality. So before, whether there was like a two-pronged scale, right? Truth or false, truth or fiction, good or bad, black or white, right? But now we're moving into a multidimensional 3D version of reality where there's a complexity beyond what we can prove with facts, because we also have to gauge how that information interacts with our own free will and our own perception and intuition about whether or not we're attracted to that or whether we're going to remove ourselves from that type of energy, right? So it takes a linear thing and it turns it into a 3D thing with everything in reality. This is with photographic evidence, with whatever anybody's saying. I'm giving you information I got from a source that I don't even know. I know energetically what it feels like in my body to receive this information, and for me, I choose to accept it because I know that it's safe and I know that it's in alignment with me and my vibration. But that may not be true for everybody, right? So you have got to figure out what your own vibration is and whether you resonate with certain truths that you're hearing, or whether you think they're true or not, with certain narratives that you're hearing, right? You are the one that has to decide whether or not it's true. So stay empowered through conscious choices and emotional alignment, avoiding victim mentality, right? Because that creates fear and anxiety. And humanity's inherent connection to divinity and free will ensures the ability to navigate these changes that are happening purposefully. So with that, I want to thank you. If you made it all the way to the end, I appreciate it. Click the like, share, subscribe button, and I will be back with more as soon as I get it. I'm going to be actually launching a lot more content in the new year. I'm going to be on here a lot more often, so I hope to build a community and to connect with you guys. So I just want to thank you for tuning in, and I just want to express my gratitude for everybody who supports this channel and the messages that my guides want out for humanity. Thank you.